In early computer programming days, developers didn't have the tools we have today. For example, when they want to create a project, they were basically creating some files in some node applications like Notepad we have today. Then they were saving that file with the extension for their specific language. For example, if it's Python, they were using the extension of .py. If it's a Java file, they were using .java. And if it's a C file, it's .c. So today we have some advanced tools that we can use our developments. And these tools will provide us a lot to develop much easier and faster. So let us first understand the logic of these environments, these tools. Then we can go into installation process. So I'm going to just mention about our previous video. In our previous video, we have created a file in our Notepad application. And the file name was hello world.py. And in this file, we have created a line of Python code, which was print hello world, right? And by using this environment, we were able to see our result. So for example, in our terminal, we have just typed Python space, the file name, which is hello world.py. Then we were able to see the result, which is hello world. So once we provided Python environment, which is python.exe, we were able to do that. So that's okay. And that's nothing wrong. We can do this. We can develop our projects by using just node applications. But to save time and energy, we have some advanced tools like I mentioned before. And these tools are called IDEs, integrated development environments. So let us first see, what we have in an IDE. So I will just draw an IDE here and it will be something like that. So for example, this is our IDE, Integrated Development Environment. And in our IDE, we have a project management part here. So that's great because I can have just thousands of files, tens of directories in my project. And to be able to see them, to be able to manage them, having another area in my editor will provide me a lot. So for example, we have some directories. Under these directories, we have some files and we can just manage them. We can just see them here easily and control them. So we also have a place where we can write our code, like here, for example, this place. In this place, we can write our code just like we did in our Notepad application. For example, let's say print hello world, right? That's cool. So how we ran our code, we have used some commands like python space hello world.py. So here on this IDE, we have some buttons, to be able to run our code. For example, we have this run button. And when we click this, it actually does the same thing as we did before with python space hello world.py. And when we do that, we can actually see some result here in our console. Yeah, this is called console. And console basically creates an interaction between us and our programming language. And when I just click this run button, I can see my result here, which is hello world. These IDEs also have a lot more, and I will mention them in a minute. But what we are doing here is not something completely different. We are not typing some different code. We just have a different environment, a better environment to develop our Python applications. So here, understand their benefits in a better way. So the first benefit is they are actually very good when it comes to, editing our coding editors. Okay, we will be seeing what I mean by that. For example, when you type something, it can autocomplete it for you. Or if you have some problems in your code, it can just give you some warnings and you can see them before running your code. So second, we have some debugging tools. So let us just see this again. So we have our run button here. And here we also have debugging tool, which is great. And what these debugging tools do, they actually help us to see our code step by step. For example, it can be 1,000 line of code. And we want to just see some parts of that code, how that works, what's the problem in that code. So you don't need to know about anything about debugging. I will have another lecture on debugging on these IDEs. But what we are doing basically to provide an environment to see our code step by step. And these tools, these debugging tools are integrated to our IDEs. So we can use them easily and we can just do a lot of stuff out of it. Okay, so that's great. But what else we have? We have a great project management environment. As I mentioned, project management. Yeah, my writing just sucks. And we have some version control systems. So what do we mean by that? For example, you are working in a company and you are working on the same project with like 10 people. So you might be changing the same file, and to be able to control this, who is doing what, we need a version control system so that we can see everyone's process on the development, and this is gonna save us a lot of time. So to be able to do this, we have this system, the technology Git, and to be able to use this system, we have the website GitHub. You might be familiar with GitHub, but if you don't know GitHub, that's all right. It basically helps us to collaborate with our colleagues and to see the version of our projects. And the great thing is that these IDEs have integrated version control system in their own. By just signing in our GitHub, we can use it on our IDE, and that's gonna save us a lot of time. In our previous example, to be able to do that in our Node application, we have to go to GitHub, we have to upload file, or we have to just type some commands on the terminal. But in this situation, it's just integrated into our IDE. That's cool, but which IDE are we gonna use in our lectures? We are gonna use Pycharm. So Pycharm is a great development environment for both beginners and professionals. It just has a lot of tools that we can use, a lot of plugins that we can use, and it will help us a lot during our development. So can you use other IDEs while developing this something or learning something? Of course you can use. You can use Visual Studio Code, Atom, Eclipse, or any IDE you want. It doesn't really matter. And most of these IDEs have similar tools integrated to their system. It's not a problem at all. I will continue with Pycharm, but you can use any IDE you want. So that's great, but how can we download and set up Pycharm? So let us see that and continue with the setup process. I will just open Google and type Pycharm download. Okay, here I have my official website, which is jetbrains.com. You should be going that website. I'm just gonna click JetBrains. And here I have two versions. One of them is professional and the other one is community version. So we'll continue with community version because you have to pay for a professional one. But if you want to pay for it, you can go with that as well. But you'll be able to do everything I've done in this course by using community version. That's why I'll be using that as well. The other thing is if you're a college student and want to use professional version, you can do it for free. You just need to sign up on jetbrains.com, and by using your school email, you can go for the professional version as well. So I will just click download for the community version, and the download has started. So I will just cancel this since I have my Pycharm downloaded in my computer. I will open my file explorer, and you should be able to see Pycharm on your computer as well under downloads. So here I have my Pycharm. I will just double click that. You can just say yes here. And here I have my welcome screen. I will just click next. And here it shows me the destination folder. I will not change it. I will leave it as it is. So let's say next. And here there are some things that are important to understand. So it just asks me if I want to create a desktop shortcut. That's great. I can create it. Update context menu. This means that, for example, one of your friends sent you Python for project file. And when you right click it, there will be an option which asks if you want to open this on Pycharm. So that's okay. Yeah, we can just click this as well. Create associations. It basically means that when you double click a Python file, you want to open it on Pycharm automatically. For example, I might be doing some minor changes on my project, and to be able to do that, I don't want to call Pycharm application. I can do this on my Notepad as well. But if you want, you can just enable this as well. So I won't. So here I have another option, which is update path variable. So it's very important. In our previous video, we have actually added python.exe to path. So it will do a similar thing as well. If you want to control Pycharm from your terminal, if you want to run some commands anywhere in your terminal for Pycharm, you can click this as well. And it's important to choose this because sometimes we might want to run Pycharm on our terminal, or we might want to control it in any directory we want. So I will just click add bin folder to the path. So let's say next. Here you can leave it as it is with JetBrains. So installation has started. I will see you after the installation. Okay, installation is done. Now I will say I want to reboot my computer later, but you can, since I'm recording this video, but you can reboot now and you can reboot your system to open Pycharm. So I will say finish. So here, first I will try to open my Pycharm from terminal. So let us search for a command prompt. And here I will just type Pycharm, and I should be able to see Pycharm application opening. Okay, it just asks me if I want to import some settings or config files from my previous installations, but I don't have a previous installation. So I will just say do not import settings for Pycharm. So let's say okay. then that's cool. We have our Pycharm and we are able to see a Pycharm welcome screen. So here, there's something important you need to understand. This Pycharm is now connected to terminal because I have run Pycharm command. If I close my terminal, my Pycharm application will also be closed. Just be careful about working with terminal. If you close your terminal, it will just close your Pycharm as well. So here I will go to my desktop and I will just double click Pycharm Community Edition. It just does the same thing. I'm just using a shortcut to open my application. So here I have my welcome screen and Pycharm has a new user interface and it's actually really cool. And I will be using this new user interface as well. But before enabling it, I will just open the old version. So here I have my customized. You can just change your color theme or your IDE font. It's up to you. We have our plugins part and a learn section. You can go for it as well if you want. But here, what I'm going to do is to create a project. But before doing this, you see that we have get from version control system. For example, if you are using GitHub, you can fetch your code from GitHub and use it here on this IDE. This is one of the integrations, for example. So we also have open. If you have any Pycharm projects, you can open it as well, but I will create a new project here. So the name of the project will be, let's say, Python tutorials. Okay. So here there's something we need to understand. Python interpreter, new virtual environment. So what do we mean by that? Okay. To be able to understand this, let us give a daily life example. For example, me, my friend Bob, and John are working on different Python versions. For example, I have Python 3.11, but Bob is working on Python 3.7 and John is working on Python 3.3. That's possible. Don't have to use the same latest version. So I have my 3.11 on my computer and my friend Bob sent me a project written in 3.7. Should I just delete my version and install Python 3.7? So for example, if I get a project from John, I just need to install 3.3, to be able to run his code because there can be some specific dependencies to 3.3. So it's a lot of work and I don't want to do that. Instead of doing this, I want to create an environment for all of these projects. And these projects will have like small computers in their own and they will just use the Python version I want while setting up my project. For example, I have my 3.11 on my computer, but when I want to run Bob's project, I will just create an environment. So these environments are called virtual environments. And here we are just saying this. This will create an isolated environment for this project. And the Python version on my system will not affect this project. And to be able to do that, we have the location of our virtual environment, which is our Python tutorials. That's okay. You don't need to change it. And base interpreter, which means that which version do you want to use in this virtual environment? For example, we have installed Python 3.11, but if you have any other projects written in other releases, you can just download them and you can just pick them here. When you pick them, this is gonna be an isolated environment and this Python version will not affect your whole computer. So that's great. That's really great because by using these virtual environments in big projects, we are actually not affected from dependencies for some specific versions. So that was very important. So I just wanted to explain it thoroughly. And I hope you get the idea. As a summary, we are just trying to create an environment. My light source has just died. Okay, I will just continue like this. So what I've done, basically, I've created an isolated environment for that specific Python version. So that's cool. Now we have our base interpreter. We'll use Python 3.11 for that specific project, and it will create a virtual environment for this project. If I want to create some other projects in other versions of Python, I can use other virtual environments, and this will not affect my system dependencies. That's cool. Here it says inherit global site packages. It just asks if you want to get some third-party packages. For now, I'm not gonna choose this option. Make available to all projects. It just asks me if you want to make available these settings to other projects as well. I'm not gonna choose this. So here it says create a main.py welcome script. So let's see it. I will say, okay, it's asking you already have Python tutorials. So I will say Python tutorial instead of Python tutorials. So let us say create. This is the old version of Pycharm interface. So if you want to go with it, it's okay. The code typing will not change. This is just user interface. But if you want to enable the new version, you can come here and you can click settings. Under appearance and behavior, we have new UI option, and I will just enable new UI. And I will say, all right, so we need to restart the Pycharm to be able to see the new user interface. So let us say restart. All right, here I have my new version. So you remember the visual explanation at the beginning of this video. So we are going to have a similar environment here. This is just a pop-up that gives me some tips every day. If you want to learn some features, you can just go through it. I will just close it, but if you don't want to show it, I will just close it. So here you can go through, meet the new UI section. You can just change your theme. You can just use some compact version as well. I will go with clean one. Then I will just close this tab. Here I have my project section. You see that? I can see all of my files. I can see all of my directories, and it's really easy for me to control them here. And I also have a place here where I can write my code. This code looks complicated, so I'm going to delete this. Let's delete this. And now I'm going to say print. You see that? Before I type print, it actually wants to autocomplete my code. So let's click autocompleting, and I'm going to say hello world. That's cool. So I have my code, and to be able to run this code, in my previous examples, I have just go through some terminal process. I have written some command, and I can just click this and I can just see my result. To be able to do this, you can also right click the editor and you can just run main. Here we can see our result. And that's really cool. I can do all of this stuff on one environment, and I don't need to write some commands all the time. And everything is really easy here, for my developments. It's great, but we can't do a lot of stuff with just print function. So we'll be learning everything about Python, and we'll be creating some applications. And I don't want you to memorize anything on this environment, because I want you to use them during our videos, during our tutorials. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to use this Pycharm in a way that can help you more and more. So let us continue with understanding Python concepts. I will see you in the next one.